Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. Ole's held his press conference this afternoon. Obviously it's Sheffield United away tomorrow night in the Premier League. The games are coming thick and fast, but it's a must-win game. United, it's really tight at the top of the table. United could be right up there with a shout. Liverpool play Spurs this evening. Particularly if that game ends up in a draw, United could be right on the coattails of the leaders, and United will have played 12 games by the time they play tomorrow night. It's not like it's only 5 or 6 games into the season. You're over a third of the way, roughly a third of the way into your games. So it could be a very interesting this time tomorrow night if United can win at Sheffield United. So every game's important at the moment. As I say, he's held his press conference. A few of the questions that he was asked about Dean Henderson going back. I think the person who was asking the question was wondering whether Ollie might say if Henderson might play back at Sheffield United. Personally, I think it's an accident waiting to happen. If you was to give Dean Henderson a game against Sheffield United, I wouldn't do it. I would keep David De Gea in goal. When I say an accident waiting to happen, that's nothing against Dean Henderson whatsoever. I'm just talking fate-wise. It'd be horrendous if Dean Henderson went there and cost United a goal, perhaps, that could possibly cost 2 points on the evening or something. You just never know. Ollie did answer the question and just said it shows how valuable some loan deals can be, and that Dean Henderson's really grown in maturity and become a great keeper over the time that he spent at Sheffield United. And he couldn't really thank Chris Wilder and Sheffield United enough. He basically said for doing such a good job with Dean Henderson while he was there, and he's really matured while he was at Sheffield United. He was then asked, do you expect these shock results? It's so tight at the top of the season, at the top of the table. Do you expect these shock results to happen all the way during the season? Ollie mentioned the actual quality of the Premier League and that there's no easy games, and also said the fact that there's no fans in the stadiums helps that. He's right. He's right on both counts, but I don't think the way I'm looking at Manchester City at the moment, I think these are the most surprising results. Is the fact that Liverpool and City are not, well clear of the opposition. Liverpool have got terrible injury, terrible injury problems at the moment. So it's not surprising, really, that Liverpool are not sweeping all before them like they have done for a couple of seasons. And City, they just don't look quite the same team to me. So I think it might just be a coincidence, that it's happening in a time where there's no crowds. So I'm not so sure that the crowds are having as much to do with it as people are saying. I could be wrong, but I just think Liverpool might still be struggling with the injuries that they've got, and just City just don't seem to be quite the same team to me. And they're the two teams to me that are having the biggest problems at the moment compared to what you would normally expect. The next question he was asked about, well, maybe not the next question. I'm not covering every question. Some of them are a bit mundane. But he was asked about how are the players coping with the way that you're changing the formation and changing the shape so often, and the players have got to fit into these different formations and obviously play different roles. How are they coping with that? I don't think Ollie likes that question. He went straight on the defensive. He responded by saying to the questioner, what was the change in formation then this weekend? You tell me. Let's see if you've got it, he said to the question. In other words, what do you think the shape was at the weekend and how much it changed? He went on to say that the team shape at the weekend was just as it normally is. He said, we've only twice played with a back three. We've used a diamond once, and then we've also used a diamond for 2 half games. He said in all the rest of the games, we've been using that same shape. He said, so only 4 times has the shape been different, and that seems pretty consistent to me. So Ollie is denying that there is too much changing of the shape. He might be right. It might be that it's just a changing of the personnel that's pretty dramatic at times. So he said that the shape doesn't change a lot. He did describe the shape as 4-2-3-1 at the weekend. He said Paul Pogba came into that that pocket on the left, he described it, in other words, the left of the three. He described that as a 4-2-3-1. Pogba playing in that pocket on the left is his favourite position, he said, and he said he thought Pogba did well in that position. Obviously, who am I to question Ollie? He's saying it was 4-2-3-1. To me, it was two banks of four, but that often happens. If you get pushed back, if you're playing with two central midfield players and then a three just in front, usually the two wider players do get pushed out because they've got to stop their fullbacks coming forward. So it's difficult to tell the difference, in my opinion. So even if you set them up in a 4-2-3-1, you sometimes get forced back by the opposition. You can't let their fullback, if they've got a wide player against our fullback and then they've got a fullback coming forward to double up, someone's got to be out there to help, and it's usually the job of a winger. I know Paul Pogba's not a winger, but he was the widest left player of all the midfield players, just as Mason Greenwood was the widest right player. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm calling it 4-4-2. I mean, Bruno's a number 10 really, or playing as a number 10, or 4-4-1-1. But 4-2-3-1, to me, it rapidly, especially when the opposition have got a lot of the ball, it rapidly becomes 4-4-2, and that's the formation as I saw it. Ollie describes it as 4-2-3-1 though. Whether that means he's going to stick with that, he has just said in that, as I say, in that question, he took it very defensively and said that the formation doesn't change very often. He said it only changed 4 times, or for 4 games, including 2 half games. So and whether that means, I think that means pretty much that he's going to play that formation tomorrow. Obviously, he was asked about the fitness of the players. He said it'd be a bit of too much of a risk. He basically said to play Cavani tomorrow. I'm gutted about that, to be honest. I was hoping Cavani was going to get a game tomorrow, but I don't think he's described him as doubtful. So I think at best we might see Cavani on the bench, but really, I doubt that. I doubt that very much. I don't think Cavani will be in the squad tomorrow. When he spoke about the shape, I was interested to hear him say. He said if Dan James is on the left, it's different to having Pogba on the left. Different styles of players doing the same role. And he also said if Mata is on the right, it's different to Marcus Rashford being on the right. So in other words, they're playing the same role but in a different style and a different manner. Whether that's a clue, I'd like him to make a few changes tomorrow. I'd like players like that to get a game. They need a game, and I'm just wondering whether that's a clue as to Juan Mata and Dan James might be playing tomorrow. I mean, Dan James hardly ever gets a game, so to say that it's different with Dan James, he did play wide left at Newcastle in the league. He played wide left against Chelsea at Old Trafford. But I think I'm right in saying that's the only two. He might have played in the League Cup. I can't remember the lineup against Brighton and Luton, but that's different. I don't really count them. But in the Champions League or the Premier League, I think he started wide on the left twice, Dan James. So I'm not. I'm just thinking maybe there's a chance he's got him in mind for tomorrow night. And as I say, he also mentioned Mata's difference to Rashford on the right, which brings me, I mentioned the team that I'd like to see him play yesterday. I'm going to have a stab now. I have a stab every week, the day before the game, at what I think the lineup will be. So here's my lineup that I'm going to guess is going to start, and it's not going to be as dramatically different to what I'm hoping it'll be, but it is a little bit different. So David De Gea in goal, I think it'll be. I think the back four will be Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. In midfield, I'm gonna go 50-50, and I'm going to say Dan James isn't going to get a start, but I think Juan Mata will get a start. So I think it'll be Juan Mata, McTominay. I fancy Fred to get a rest after getting a knock, so I think Matic will play, but I think Pogba will keep his place to the left. So I'm going to go, it's going to be Juan Mata, McTominay, Matic and Pogba. I'd love to see Van der Beek get a game at number 10. And Ollie must be feeling a little bit under pressure, but it might just be a change too many. So I'm gonna go with Bruno. I think Van der Beek might find himself still warming the bench tomorrow. So I'm going to go with Bruno at number 10 and Marshall at number 9. So to recap, I think it'll be David De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. I think it'll be Mata, McTominay, Matic and Pogba, and then Bruno behind Anthony Marshall. That's my guess at the lineup for tomorrow night. Whatever the lineup is, vital we get these these 3 points, irrelevant of what the other scores are. Obviously, it's interesting thinking of the other games. Like I say, Liverpool play Spurs tonight, so at the top, there are points going missing from at least one team, if not both teams. So, you know, United will be getting much closer tomorrow night if they can win, certainly to the top of the table or the second in the table. In other news, Slaven Bilic has been sacked by West Brom this morning, which I'm very, very surprised about. In fact, Ollie was asked about that during the press conference, and I like the way he handled it. He said too many. I mean, obviously, Ollie's job has been, certainly in the media, it's been in question for a while now, and Ollie said that maybe well, he didn't actually say West Brom, but he said clubs don't realise how important continuity can be, and that the managers need time. I thought that was very interesting how he turned that around, really, in a manner. He said clubs haven't got enough patience these days, and that the managers need continuity to give themselves a chance of getting it right. So that was an interesting way that he dealt with that. On Slaven Bilic, by the way, I watched only last night they got a point at the Etihad, which was a fantastic point for West Brom last night. And I think the way the players were working for him last night, and the organisation that they showed, and the endeavour that all the players showed, they're certainly behind him. I thought they played quite well at Old Trafford, and United had 2 or 3 good chances, but so did West Brom, and it was a twice taken penalty that led to United winning that game 1-0. So I think West Brom, the way they worked for him at Old Trafford and at the Etihad, all in the last few weeks, I'm a bit surprised that he's been sacked. I really am. I think it's. I think they were probably going to get out of it, West Brom, if they'd have kept him. Of course, whoever they get in charge now, they might get that new manager bounce. It could work for them, but I'm a bit surprised that Slaven Bilic has been sacked. So that was one game last night. Manchester City won, West Bromwich Albion won. Also last night there was Chelsea versus Wolves. Couple of slightly interesting things happened there. Well, to start with, Wolves won 2-1 after being 1 down at half time. Giroud got Chelsea's goals. Giroud's on fire recently. He's banging the goals in. And in the second half, 2 cracking goals, one by Daniel Podence and another by Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto's, by the way, in injury time. And Wolves won 2-1. A couple of things that I spotted in that game. One thing, there was an interesting point I've seen people talking about on Twitter, and I've not seen anybody yet that saw it the way I saw it. The ball was thrown in, a throw-in for Chelsea, and N'Golo Kante bounced in front of him. We could have controlled it easily with his body or his thigh, but he literally just caught the ball and picked it up. He didn't get a booking. You're supposed to get booked for a deliberate handball, but he didn't get booked, but got a free kick given against him. And I've seen a lot of people saying, what's he done there? Like, even the commentators were saying he just seemed to have a mental block, and something just happened that made him just catch the ball. I think I know what happened. I think I saw what happened. The referee, in my opinion, there'd just been a clash in the West Brom box, and there was a possibility of a penalty for Chelsea. And I saw the referee gesture to whoever probably Chilwell. It was in the left back area, like near the halfway line. I think the referee gestured, just hold that throw in a second, because once it restarts the game, you can't. They can't go back on it. If the game restarts, they're not allowed to then look at a VAR decision if the game has restarted. And I saw the referee put his hand up to sort of say, hold that throw in a second. Whether Chilwell saw that or not, I'm not sure. But he took the throw in my opinion, before the referee, because normally they don't have to wave to say, right, come on, carry on. But I think Chilwell took the throw in before he'd had that signal. And N'Golo Kante realised that there was a chance of a penalty for Chelsea if the play doesn't continue. So N'Golo Kante caught the ball because Ben Chilwell had thrown it in before he should have thrown it in. And I think N'Golo Kante was trying to, pause the game, as if to say to the ref, I know you're looking at that VAR, or they're looking at it. So, he's not really taking that throw in. I'll hold on to the ball. So I think that was what happened. And most people that I've seen are just saying, what's happened there? Why did he catch the ball? I think N'Golo Kante was hoping to pause the game a bit longer while the VAR people possibly gave a penalty to Chelsea. I haven't got that game recorded. I'd like to have another look at it. I should have recorded it really, but I only record the United games normally. Another thing that happened in that game, VAR-wise, this, and I'm not just saying this because it's Chelsea. Any Chelsea fans who might watch this, I'm not against. I always look at things with an open, open mind. And leading up to Giroud's goal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention a goal that United scored as well. That I think is similar. It's similar as far as VAR is concerned, and that was a few weeks back, or maybe even a couple of months back. But Timo Werner received the ball on the left wing and then passed it to a player, I can't remember who passed it to Giroud, and Giroud scored. And the VAR people got involved only because the main reason they got involved is to start with, the keeper saved it and then had to palm it away from behind the line. So it was given by the referee getting a signal on his watch. But then he had a quick look at a pass, and the pass to Werner, it looked to me like Werner was offside. You get a gut feeling. I wouldn't swear he was offside, but it was very, very tight, and certainly tight enough for the VAR people to look at it properly. Now, when I say look at it properly, whenever they look at it properly, it takes a good, 20 or 30 seconds perhaps, and they put the lines on the pitch. And when they're putting the lines on the pitch, the TV company normally put the lines on the pitch. So when Timo Werner, to me, my gut feeling was that he was offside, and this is leading to the goal. It's a second pass before the goal, but they didn't put the lines on the screen and sort of dismissed it as if he was clearly onside. It took him a few seconds, hardly any time at all. And I think there's a good chance he was offside, and I don't understand why it happened so quickly and why the lines are not drawn on the pitch. And I saw a very, very similar goal when United played away at Newcastle. Just one more thing about that. It mattered at the time. It mattered big time at the time. It was the first goal of the game. As I'm bringing this up now, it barely matters now because Wolves won the game in the end. So it barely matters in the great scheme of things. Wolves still won the match, but obviously it could have ended up being the winning goal for Chelsea. So I was a bit surprised that they didn't take more time over it and draw the lines on the pitch. And just to show that I've got no bias here whatsoever, but United scored a goal at Newcastle, which I have got recorded. And the one I've got recorded, well, I've got the game recorded, but the fourth goal at Newcastle. So again, it's an irrelevant goal. United were 3-1 up anyway, unless goal difference comes into it at the end of the season and it's one goal in it. That'd be a coincidence. But Marcus Rashford's goal at Newcastle, I can pause that. I've got it on TV. And to me, it looks offside. When I pause it, it looks offside. But again, no lines were drawn. They didn't take any time. And as I say, I've got that game recorded. They don't even mention it that it might have been offside. And it just astonishes me how some of these tight decisions don't get looked at. I'm just mentioning the Marcus Rashford one to balance it up with the Chelsea one. But there's two goals to me that the VAR people dismissed too quickly and just said, right, that's a goal. So I think the VAR, I'd love to be able to speak to them and ask them why. But I think both of those goals are, I bet one of them was offside because I think both of them were really, really close. That's that on last night's football. Obviously, there's six games tonight. United play tomorrow night against Sheffield United. But the 6 games tonight, there's 3 games at 6 o'clock and 3 games at 8 o'clock. They're all on Amazon Prime, all live. You can take your pick which one you want to watch. I think the pick of the ones at 6 o'clock is Arsenal versus Southampton. I think Southampton are another tricky fixture for Arsenal. It's not going well for Arsenal at all at the minute, so I think Southampton will be going there fancying themselves. So I'll probably be watching that one, Arsenal and Southampton. Also at 6 o'clock, you've got Leeds versus Newcastle and Leicester versus Everton. I think that could be a good game as well, Leicester-Everton. But I think Arsenal-Southampton will be the one that I'll be watching to start with. Then at 8 o'clock, you've got Liverpool versus Spurs. Obviously, that's the pick of the bunch. They're both level at the top of the table with 25 points each. Very interested to see how Jose Mourinho sets up tonight. I'm pretty certain he'll be going into that game. And he'd be happy with a draw. He'd be happy to take a point away, and it prevents Liverpool from opening a gap up against them. So I think he'd be more than happy to draw the game. As I always say about the way United operated against City, though. If he sets up in the first place to be accepting of a draw, he will also be hoping that they get a goal on the break. So it's not just taking a point. It's giving it the way he thinks. He'll be thinking about it that would give him his best chance of getting 3 points rather than playing an expansive game and really having a go at Liverpool. But when you've got the likes of Harry Kane and Son playing for you, they're always capable of getting a goal on the break. The other 8 o'clock games tonight, West Ham versus Crystal Palace, that'd be interesting. Fulham and Brighton. That's a massive game at the bottom of the table. Absolutely massive game for those two clubs. I won't be watching it, as I say. I'll be watching Liverpool and Spurs, but I would love to see how Fulham actually do, having worked the socks off to get a point against Liverpool at the weekend. And you would imagine that they'll get at least a point at home to Brighton if they can play like they played against Liverpool at the weekend. But it's a funny old game. It remains to be seen who gets the points. If either of them can win that game, it'd be a massive win for them. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow discussing United's game against Sheffield United and discussing, giving a recap really on tonight's football. Like I said, there's 6 games tonight, so we'll have all the results of those tomorrow and have a look at the league table tomorrow. If you've enjoyed that little show, please subscribe, tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Keep stum.